arriving later here. Just to first start on the format of tonight, Director Welker, Jason Welker, will be presenting some of the financials for the first 6 months of operations of the Russell Center. We'll then listen to a presentation from him on a couple of options and observations. Then council will discuss, and we'll have a workshop up here where we'll lay out some concerns, thoughts, ideas. Then we will conclude with a set period of time. I'll discuss with council later whether that's 30 minutes or more for public comment. That public comment would be limited to, depending on how many people want to speak, 3 minutes. And there are some pink forms up at the podium here that anyone wanting to speak will have to fill out. So that's sort of the business end of things. First, I just want to say it's, wow, what a day. And we're all lucky to live in Bonner County in Sandpoint, especially this time of the year. It's to Jason and your crew and council members who made it possible to walk up and see 30 kids playing in that spray park, and the park area being fully utilized, more so than I've ever seen it in almost 20 years. Hats off to you. I know you're finishing the last of that project up, but we're all lucky to be here and so privileged to have a discussion like this. And tonight, this discussion is about a facility that was an incredible gift to us as a community and to the city of Sandpoint and Sandpoint residents. You know, and the big thing is, you know, when we opened, I mentioned a few steps away from here that we've never done this before as a city. On our good days, we make sure your toilet's flush, your water is safe and clean. The fire and police respond to emergencies, and a greater struggle every year that the potholes in the drive or walk home are reasonable condition. But you know, running sports facilities is unique. We've had a few months at this, and we're going to learn some more tonight and have some options for the future, and we'll discuss that as a council. So we're here tonight to learn, to listen. Again, as I mentioned, I'll follow up with council members after this workshop individually, and I will be bringing based on those discussions, a proposal for management of the facility to you sometime in the coming months. But with that, officially, good evening. It's 5:30 p.m. on Wednesday, May 28th, 2025, and this special meeting of the Sandpoint City Council is now called to order in the community room at the James E. Russell Sports Center, 216 Pine Street, Sandpoint, Idaho. For the record, I'm Mayor Jeremy Grimm presiding. Also present are City Council President Deb Rule, Councilor Justin Dick, Kyle Schreiber, Pam Bouquet, and Rick Howard. Joe Spiro is absent until he attends. And for those of you who are new at this, this is formal requirements, so we get the stuff on the record. I'd like to make everyone aware that the city does have a policy on public meeting decorum. In summary, I would ask that everyone please be pleasant and respectful, not make derogatory statements about others, including city staff, not be disorderly and disruptive, no calling out, clapping, or holding up signs. Under the city's adopted code of ethics and civility, as the presiding officer, I'm to identify law enforcement personnel serving as Sergeant of Arms for this evening's meeting. Tonight we have Lieutenant Stephen Chamberlain. Lieutenant Chamberlain is in the back and someone else with him. So we have multiple sergeants or police people here. Thank you. This meeting was called for the purpose of a council workshop with staff regarding the Russell Sports Center financial performance and future operations. Prior to adjournment, as I mentioned, at the end of the meeting, I'll allow for public comment. There are members of the public in attendance who wish to provide any comment on this topic. In the interest of time, we may need to put some limitations on that comment, but we will take that up following the workshop. If you believe you may wish to speak, please complete a public comment sign-up form, ink forms up by the podium, and hand it to staff. To my right, your left. Proceeding with our workshop now, I will yield the floor to Community Planning and Development Director Jason Welker.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to everybody who came out tonight. It's a wonderful turnout. It's a great cross-section of our community. I did email all past and present James E. Russell Sports Center members. I want to thank you first and foremost for your support for this facility over the last 6 months. We also did some outreach to the broader sporting community. As you know, the name on the building is James E. Russell Sports Center. This building was the gift for this building was given to the city by the Russell family, who you see here. Part of the vision behind this gift, I've taken an excerpt from a 2022 Sandpoint magazine summer edition article here, was to really celebrate and provide a space for indoor year-round recreation and sports of all types. So if you want to just give that quick quote a read, we're going to move on to our presentation tonight. But I did want to just acknowledge the donors, Ginny and Jim Russell, who gave $7.5 million, which covered 100% of the costs of the construction of this project. Okay, so we're going to go on. This is the basic outline of tonight's presentation. We're going to reflect on the first 6 months of operations. We're going to share the operational challenges and successes. We're going to present some possible future operating options and gather input from you all and give council some thoughts to chew on over the next few weeks, at which time a future day, I'll be looking to them for some direction as for how to operate the facility in the next 6 months and in the future. So we're going to do a little icebreaker before we dive into the presentation. I'd like you to take 3 minutes and introduce yourself to somebody in the room who you do not know already. 2 questions I'd like you to discuss with that person. Why are you here tonight? And why do you care about the James E. Russell Sports Center? 3 minutes. I want to hear a lot of noise, a lot of chatter. Go.
Yes, so these numbers are actually like I want a lot of them. So that's why these first couple of months are going to be are then the next step in the future. Really, this is a human interest. Yeah, this is the revenue goes to that. Our goal is to keep Okay, everybody, we're gonna bring it back. Thank you. It's great to see everybody getting to know each other. All right. 10-second warning. Yeah. Okay, bring it back to the front, please. Have seats. We're going to move on in the presentation. Kyle, can you hear us in the back there? Can you hear us in the back? Here we go. Here we go.
Not yet, yes.
Great. I hope everybody just learned that we're all here for the right reasons. We all care about recreation and sports in Sandpoint. We care about the city's ability to manage your finances, manage your recreation amenities efficiently and to the best benefit of the community. So thank you for taking the time to talk to your neighbors and get to know one another briefly. Feel free to continue those conversations after tonight's presentation. Councilman Spiro is doing this. Okay, we're going to start with the finances. We're going to start right with the fun stuff. So first, I want to go over the first 6 months of operating expenses since we opened on December 16th. We're at almost the 6-month period now. So just to give you a big picture overview, now all the council members have a very detailed profit and loss statement in front of them. That is a public record. If anybody's interested in seeing that, I'm happy to share. You can contact me after the meeting. So to give you an idea of what costs we have faced with operating this facility, the big one is obviously, as with almost every business, personnel, staffing, labor. We have the equivalent of a 130% full-time equivalent staff salary and benefited employees being paid out of this facility. Over the last 6 months, that has included a full-time facility supervisor who worked here 40 hours a week. That has included approximately 20% of my salary. As the community planning and development director, my salary is paid out of several different sources, from the planning department to building to parks and recreation. And 10% of our recreation superintendent salary was coming out of this facility as well. So the full-time salary and benefits, plus our 4 to 6 part-time $14 an hour front desk staff, who, by the way, those folks have been amazing. We've had 4 people who have been here for 5 months now, since January. I want to thank Daniel, Ivan, Stephen Bradley, and Linda, who's working out there right now for Devil's League tonight. They've been fantastic, and I really appreciate them sticking with us for these 5 months. All in, we're at about $95,000 for staffing at this facility in just the first 6 months. Other costs you can see there, I've kind of ranked them from the highest. It's at electricity at around $18,000, down to other expenses that many of which come in at under $1,000, putting us at right around $138,000 of expenses since we opened on December 16th. That I will point out, as I was just explaining to Councilman Howarth and Dick, that's a little bit inflated because we had some upfront costs relating to equipment, hardware, shelving for the back offices. Some of the things you see in this room, those were included in our profit and loss for the first few months. So I do expect those numbers to go down in the next few months, and you'll see what we've done in terms of staffing and how we allocate salaries for staff at this facility that are going to bring those numbers down in the future. So that's the red number. Let's look at the green number. So in the first 6 months of operation, we've earned right around $72,000. And you can see what the sources of that revenue has been. Overwhelmingly, it's membership revenue. We had 51 annual members who have paid for an annual membership at around $400 to $450 a year. That's brought in $21,700. We currently have 50 active monthly members in addition to those 51 annual members. So as of last week, we had 101 paying members in the month of May. But all time, we have had 238 paying members. So if you're wondering, why aren't we covering more of our costs? There's a big reason. Member retention is very low. We've had only about 35 or 40% of our members renew their membership who have had membership since we opened. That is obviously a statement about how we are operating the facility. We are offering an experience that has made people want to pay that $40 to $45 a month. So that's something we are very aware of. Other revenue sources include the Lake Pend Oreille School District, which we have leased court space to for the high school tennis program since late February, almost 6 days a week. We've had Sandpoint, that should say, not Sandpoint Sailing Association, but the Sandpoint Tennis Association. So STA has had several private events in the facility. They're also running the Doubles League, which is starting here in 15 minutes. We have had the Panhandle Pickleball Club, PPC. I want to thank Amy from the Pickleball Club and members of the STA who are here tonight as well. They've been great supporters, renting the community room, renting court space. That brings in important revenue for the facility. We've had some private instructors who have rented court space to do private tennis instruction. And all in, we're at $72,090 in revenue. So just speaking to the low member retention rates, I just did a quick calculation. If we had 80% of those 137 expired members renew, that would bring in $4,658 of just membership revenue each month, dramatically improving our performance at the facility. That doesn't even include their play fees, because we charge between $2 and $5 for each visit. So if each of those members were to play 3 times a month on average, that would bring in an additional couple $1,000s. So member retention is a big challenge we're facing right now. It's put us in a situation where we are not covering as much of our costs as I think we would like to be.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the overall performance. Oh, look at that. Thank you, Melissa.
Sorry, Jason.
That's way better. So we forecasted the expenses over the next 6 or 7 months, making some adjustments for the changes in staffing. We've actually reduced the burden on the facility of the full-time staff from 130 FTE to about 70% FTE, which is dramatically reducing our full-time salary benefits that are placed on this facility. That was due to a restructuring in the recreation division. And that's going to help us bring down our expected costs in the year ahead. So with that, we are forecasting a shortfall of around $101,000. And in the recreation industry, the municipal recreation industry, we talk about the cost recovery ratio. So that puts us at about 54%. We're covering about 54% of the operation cost of this facility using membership and user fees. So I want to look at how that compares to other facilities nationwide and other facilities right here in Sandpoint. We're gonna do that in the next few slides. So I did a lot of research. I've learned a lot in the last few weeks. The National Recreation and Park Association's agency estimates that nationwide recreation facilities recover around 25% on average of their operation costs. Okay, it varies based on population size. For cities under 20,000, that rate is a little higher, 29.5%. And for cities over 250,000, it's much lower at 18%. Okay, the expectation for full cost recovery is uncommon, especially for facilities like public pools and community centers that provide broad public benefits. So we go into some more detail on the next slide. For indoor sports courts and recreation centers, the cost recovery rate is between 50 and 80% nationwide. That's what we would classify this facility as. So we're actually right in that range. However, that depends on diverse revenue streams, rentals, concessions, sponsorships. These things can all help facilities perform better financially. Indoor tennis facilities, in particular, cost recovery is very highly variable. It talks about in wealthier communities, facilities might break even with strong membership models, programming, and event rentals. But even these often rely on either grants for capital or for tax subsidies to maintain ongoing operations. Okay, so just some questions to think about. Nationally, do municipal rec centers usually turn a profit? No, they do not. Are they usually subsidized by tax dollars? They absolutely are. Are they expected to break even? Rarely, unless the community has explicitly adopted a cost neutral policy. And memberships, it's very uncommon that memberships and user fees cover all costs. And 27 to 40% is kind of the overall cost recovery ratio in municipal rec facilities nationwide. So I thought, well, let's look at our municipal rec facilities here in Sandpoint. This is not the only recreation facility that we run in Sandpoint. So in the next slide, we're going to look at how some of our own facilities perform, including Memorial Field and their grandstands, the sports complex in which this facility is located. We have 26 acres of outdoor fields in this park between Great Northern, Centennial, and Tratters. We have Community Hall and we have the shooting range. Those are 4 recreation facilities that we manage. In abbreviation here, GF and CIP, that tells you where the money comes from to operate those facilities. The general fund is GF, and where the money goes that those facilities bring in. So for example, Memorial Field costs the general fund $146,000 a year to maintain. That covers the wages, the salaries of the employees who maintain that field, all the equipment, all the, there's a lot of equipment to maintain a turf field of that size. That comes out of general fund tax dollars. The revenues that facility earns from use fees, of course, it's not free to use Memorial Field, just like it's not free to use this facility. We bring in around $95,600 a year in revenues at the Memorial Field complex. That goes into the park's capital improvement fund. That CIP stands for capital improvement projects. So that actually goes into a fund that we use to further invest in park amenities. So the money that we spend on things like splash pads and skate parks comes from the park's capital improvement fund. So money that we're earning from our parks amenities goes back into the parks through that CIP fund. So the Memorial Field and grandstands is at a 67% cost recovery ratio. This 26-acre sports complex is only at 20%. We spend $140,000 a year maintaining the 26 acres of park here, and it brings in only $28,000 a year from field use fees. Community Hall is our worst performing asset. It's a beloved community asset. The Boy Scouts have called it home for almost 100 years. It was built by the WPA in the 1930s, I believe. Community Hall cost the city $32,800 a year to maintain, and we only made $6,000 last year. So it's at 18%. The shooting range, the best performing recreation facility in Sandpoint. It's not even in the city. I actually went to a range master meeting there with our 28 volunteer range masters, and they're a huge reason that facility costs so little to maintain. It's open every day of the week, and we have 28 volunteers who make it possible. So I do want to extend a huge message of gratitude to those volunteers. But it's at 97%. But citywide, these recreation facilities are only at 43%. This sports center is outperforming the rest of our facilities, except for 2. So the next slide, I'm going to show you the 2 facilities that are doing a lot better. You won't be surprised that Morridge at our City Beach and Windbag Marinas is a very profitable venture for the city. 3,425% cost recovery ratio. Okay, we only spent $7,300 on maintaining those docks last year, and they brought in $250,000 for the park's capital improvement fund. And the RV park is another one. This was acquired in a land swap with the Averill Group, or the previous owners, I think, of the City Beach Hotel about 5 years ago. That has proven to be a very profitable venture for the city as well. We spent $25,000 last year on maintaining that facility, and it brought in $94,000. So I separated these out because they're not traditional recreation facilities. They're not really open up to the general public, right? How many of you have stayed at the RV campground before? I don't see any hands, but how many of you are lucky enough to have city boat slips? Oh, come on. Yeah, don't be ashamed. Yeah, we know, you're lucky. We had the lottery last week. I think about 3 people got slips this year that didn't have them. So these facilities are a little different. And this is how we fund most of our parks capital improvements in the city. 100% of the revenues from these facilities go back into parks. I don't know if you're aware of that, but that's how we do most of our big parks projects. Between them, over $300,000 a year can be earned to put back into parks and the maintenance of those facilities. So giving you an idea of this concept of cost recovery. So this is a really important question the mayor wanted me to address in this presentation. When a recreation facility does not cover its costs, I should say when this recreation facility does not cover its costs, because none of the other facilities that I just talked about cover their costs. When this recreation facility does not cover its costs, where do the monies that make up that deficit come from? It's not the general fund. It's not sewer or streets or sidewalks or water treatment or anything like that. It is the recreation fund. And this is something that most citizens aren't aware of, but if you're a Sandpoint property taxpayer, 4.55% of your property taxes go into a dedicated recreation fund. This year, that was $231,000. Okay, what is the recreation fund used for? Well, it's in the name. Traditionally, it's gone towards the programs you see here: youth and adult sports, the shooting range, lifeguards, enrichment classes, community garden, contra dance, watershed trail maintenance, and a few other programs and offerings that we've provided over the years. If we're $100,000 short at the sports center, that $100,000 is not coming out of other essential infrastructure or services. It's coming out of that recreation fund. So the trade-off we face is our ability to provide other recreation services in Sandpoint when this facility is not covering 100% or some ratio of its costs. But that is important to know, that we're not subsidizing the facility out of the general fund. It's coming out of the recreation fund. Okay, very simple math here. How do you increase your cost recovery ratio? You have to either increase revenues or you have to reduce costs. Okay. Some of the options for doing that: you can diversify the facility's use, bringing in more user groups, more income sources. You can change the membership fee structure. I think everybody would love to see lower memberships. If you lower the fees, you have to count on the percentage increase in membership being greater than the percentage decrease in cost. Then you'll see revenues go up. If not, your revenues go down. You can increase membership fees, but then you're going to lose some of your members. So there's always these trade-offs. Of course, C is a really important one. We need to increase membership retention. We're at like 35%. We need that to be at 80% for us to get closer to covering those costs. When we do that by offering more programs, clinics, camps, leagues, classes, etc. And ideally some combination of those. And then reducing costs is a little tougher. This facility has some basic costs. Even if we got rid of all the full-time staff, we'd still have $50,000 of part-time staff just to keep it open 70 to 80 hours a week. So it's really tough to reduce costs here. Our energy bill is around $3,000 a month. That can be reduced through, raising the temperature in here a little bit, things like that, turning the lights off. We started turning the lights off when the courts aren't in use, but it's all very marginal changes that we're going to see on the cost front if we want to be open as often as we are. Okay, so now we're going to jump into some options that I prepared for council to consider and for you guys to weigh in on tonight. I've basically summarized these in four ways. Stay the course is option 1. Multi-sport adaptation is option 2. Third-party operator or minimal operations. I'm going to jump into these right now. First, stay the course. Okay. Maintain current in-house operations under the new recreation facilities supervisor. We do have a new rec facilities supervisor who starts work on Monday. He's here tonight, Ryan Wells. If you know him, thank you, Ryan, for accepting that position. Very optimistic that Ryan's going to bring some new dynamism and a background in marketing and business and management and supervising employees. I'm hopeful Ryan can help us put this facility in the right direction. That would mean keeping JER a 2-sport facility and work to grow the primary user group. Prioritize expanding programming with local pros and instructors, host regional leagues and tournaments, and target growth in daily play, private rentals, and community room reservations. This room, one of the reasons I wanted to host this meeting here tonight was to show 60 or 80 people what a great space this is and how it could be used for all sorts of private and community events. Option 2, this is a multi-sport adaptation. Okay, the concept here would be to install a semi-permanent basketball and volleyball court over one of our tennis courts and a modular temporary turf field that could be installed and deinstalled within 2 hours over another tennis court. This would maintain 3 tennis courts and 10 pickleball courts for the primary user groups and enable access for hundreds of local youth and the broader sporting community. So we're going to look at what that might look like. These are some specific products that I've identified that could help us achieve that aim. There's actually a sample of the turf product out here if you want to check it out on your way out. Yeah, we're gonna look at the cost of these in just a moment. So the basketball court would be more permanent if we were to put a basketball court over one tennis court. That's not something we'd remove on a weekly or monthly basis, but the turf field, I've actually seen a sample of one of these. You can assemble a turf field the size of one tennis court and with four people in about 2 hours. So a turf field could be applied relatively quickly. This is what the facility might look like if we were to do option 2. Court 4, I imagine, would be converted to a semi-permanent multi-sport court for primarily basketball and volleyball. Court 3 could have a temporary turf field, and I only put the white stripes on there because it looked a little bit better with some stripes than just a big green blob. I would not imagine striping that for any particular sport. If we were to put a turf field in there, it wouldn't be just for soccer or just for softball or just for football. It would just be a blank turf field. The standard setup of the facility would look like what you see on the right there, 3 tennis courts and 14 pickleball courts. And there are court separation nets, as you can see out here, to separate users so that in theory you could have multiple sports going on at the same time. I know a lot of people have strong opinions about that, but that is something we strive to do if we went this route. Okay, this is not going to be free to do, obviously. When you take a facility and expand its use to include additional uses, there's going to be costs. I've priced all this out. We've looking at around $54,000 for the multi-sport court, about $77,000 or $80,000 in hoops. If we wanted to put 6 basketball hoops, that'd be 1 full court and 2 half courts. So you could have all sorts of basketball scrimmages and practices for all age groups. And if you're wondering, you can fit a high school regulation size basketball court in here with about 40 feet to spare. It's 120 feet curtain to curtain. Regulation basketball court's 86 feet. So we've got a lot of room for a full-size basketball court, of which there are only 1 or 2 in Sandpoint that are available for community use. The high school is no longer renting their court out for community use. Okay, a volleyball system to use on that court would be around $12,000. The portable turf field's a big one, $130,000 to acquire those modular portable foam units that I showed you that we've got a sample of. We'd look at getting some batting cages for around $8,000. And then another idea is to make this facility available for events, special events, kind of like the Bonner County Fairgrounds is. And that would require getting a product like this that you see here. It's called a cover sports gym floor. To cover half of the facility would be around $25,000 with these 10-foot wide by 120 foot long rollout tarps. So we could host things like school dances, graduations, concerts, trade fairs, the ski swap, things like that. Okay, we do have an anonymous donor who has offered to do a 50% match of any investment we make to outfit this facility for multiple sports. So we'd be looking at around $160,000 with funding coming from either the capital improvement fund, which I mentioned earlier, or the development impact fee fund. And I don't want to get into details about what that is, but we do have dedicated funds for parks projects like this. Of course, it's not free, it comes with trade-offs. Okay, how might this influence our revenues? Now, I want to put I'll point out the caveat right now. I did not take into account the possible reduction in revenues from pickleball and tennis use as we convert one court on a semi-permanent basis, and on a seasonal basis, we lose a second tennis court. So we definitely see revenues from tennis and pickleball decrease, but this is a realistic, I believe, estimate of what we could see in terms of additional revenues from other user groups if we were to outfit this facility for multiple sports. So you can see the total there around $56,000 in additional revenues from court usage. Currently, our fee schedule has $20 per hour for local school or nonprofit group use per court. So if a basketball group wanted to rent the basketball court for 3 hours, they'd pay $60, assuming they had up to 8 kids, and then $1 per hour for additional kids. That's kind of the draft, what's in the draft fee schedule for next year right now. So if you're wondering how we would collect, I did research what the school district charges. They charge between $15 and $25 an hour per court, depending on which school court you're trying to reserve for basketball. So we need to be competitive with the school district, obviously. And I looked at the fairgrounds as well for comparison. Okay, obviously some other considerations with option 2, loss of tennis and pickleball revenue. We would see significantly fewer courts available for those users. But ideally, we could hopefully improve retention of those members by simultaneously improving our programming. So right now, our membership rates, as you know, are pretty low because of the lack of programming. We don't offer much to members beyond a place to play. But if we simultaneously were to dramatically improve our operations at the tennis and pickleball facility in terms of the experience for members, we might not see too much of a decrease in revenue among those users. Okay, there is a third option. This was kind of brought to us by the Sandpoint Tennis Association. I might invite Jeff Klein up here to speak for a minute or two about this, but I did gather some information on this. We're kind of in the early stages. This is something that was talked about over the years, actually, since the original donation, the idea of possibly going with a third-party operator. There is actually a organization in the Pacific Northwest called the United States Tennis Association, PNW. This is a nonprofit, and this is what they do. They run municipal tennis facilities around the Northwest. They currently run facilities in Longview, Washington, Vancouver, Washington, and Tacoma, Washington. You can see their mission statement right there. Their mission is to promote the growth of the game by engaging children, adults, and families across Alaska, Washington, Oregon, and Northern Idaho. Their managing director is an area resident. He's moving to Post Falls actually right now. We were hoping he could be here tonight, but he wasn't able to join us. The idea here is that they would become a partner, and they would basically run the programming side of the facility. So it would be a hybrid model where the city maintains the front desk staff. We maintain a lot of the daily kind of foundational operations, but all the programming would get handed off to an outside organization. And I'll give you just a quick image of what they like to offer. Hopefully this video plays. I don't think it's going to. You can see the kind of programs that they offer here in terms of youth and junior programs, adult programs. They've got everything from TOTS tennis, tennis instruction called Red Ball, Orange Ball, Tennis Academy, homeschool programs, high school beginner classes, adaptive classes for adaptive tennis players, Tennis 101 for adults, 201 skills and drills, serve and return, women's double fight challenge, ball machine, men's and women's singles, mixed doubles, cardio classes, men's doubles, co-ed double strategy, adaptive classes. USTA brings an infrastructure that's used nationwide at tennis facilities for successful operations. This is what the city of Sandpoint has not successfully developed at this point. Just to give people an idea, I think a lot of people in the tennis community are going to love this idea, but they are not free. They are not cheap. The USTA charges $89 to $129 a year for a membership, but the big difference is their model is based on daily court fees. It's between $12 and $17 per court for members, significantly more than we charge for daily play at the sports center right now. For non-members, they charge $20 to $27 per tennis court. So just to give the community an idea, this would not be an option that would necessarily make it cheaper to play at the sports center. They do offer discounts for all of their members on programs, classes, and lessons and advanced court reservations. And the USTA is also the managing body for pickleball in the United States. So they are rolling out pickleball programs at their other facilities as well. And that is something they are eager to do here, is offer pickleball programs and leagues and instruction, all the same sort of thing that we see here, but for pickleball as well. So that would be this option 3 is another option where we keep the facility in its current state, no multi-sport adaptation. Okay, there's a 4th option. We could drastically reduce costs by going down to part-time only, one part-time employee working 8 to 9 hours a day. We could go down to being open only 5 days a week, maybe that's Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday through Wednesday or something. My concern with this is that while we might save up to $75,000 on costs, our revenues are likely to go down by more than $75,000 if we dramatically reduce the operating hours. To give you an idea, we're open almost 80 hours a week right now. If we went down to 40 hours a week, that's half the revenue earning possibility as well. So losses will definitely continue, even if we went towards a cost minimization strategy. But that was an option. It's something we need to consider. Okay, we did do a survey recently. This survey was sent to coaches, board members, program directors of youth programs with Sandpoint. Some people wondered why they didn't get this if they were a James E. Russell Sports Center member. We do targeted community engagement in the city. This was an example of that. So this was sent to program directors, coaches, and board members of literally every youth sports organization in the community, including tennis. We don't have a youth pickleball program in the community yet. So unfortunately, this didn't go to any pickleball coaches. So we asked for community feedback on the concept of a multi-sport adaptation. We had 29 respondents, and you can see over the next few slides some of their responses. The first one, what are your initial thoughts about this proposal? So that was the proposal being the multi-sport adaptation. We had 19 who thought it was a great idea and they were all in. 5 who were all open to it but needed more information, and 5 who are generally opposed to the idea of a multi-sport adaptation. Question 2, would you or a family member be likely to use the James E. Russell Sports Center if there were occasional times for open gyms or access to the turf field for a small fee, $3 to $5? We had 24 out of 29 respond saying yes, and 3 saying maybe, 2 saying no. Okay, I know not everybody's gonna be able to read this, but I asked for pros of this proposal. The next slide has some cons. So if you wanna squint your eyes, you can read some of those pros. The questions on the right, which of the following would your the organization you represent be willing to use? So we have the question of the basketball, volleyball, multi-sport court, tennis, pickleball courts as they are, a turf field, none of the above. And then what non-racket or paddle sports do you think we should be accommodating in JER? The number 1 response was baseball and softball, followed by basketball, volleyball, football, lacrosse, soccer, golf, cheer, ultimate frisbee. Yeah, I ran out of field sports there. I thought field hockey, nah, no one even knows what that is. It's a great sport. Okay, so some of the quotes there, give you a chance to read those. Next slide, these are the cons that were expressed. There were, all sorts of opinions about why this is possibly a bad idea, short-sighted, loss of income. You are alienating the racket sports community, destroying a world-class facility. Competition for space, that was a common response, and we've seen that at, for example, Memorial Field. There's a lot of competition for Memorial Field. Field of Dreams in Ponderay has relieved that a little bit, but also reduce some of our revenues at our outdoor fields. You are trading one user group for another. Okay, so some of the feedback in terms of cons. The questions here in the survey were, would your organization be willing to pay for access to an indoor turf or indoor multi-sport court or turf field? 25 out of 29 said yes or maybe. And then what role do you play? So you can see who we had here. We had coaches, board members, director or program director, a parent. A lot of these people wear multiple hats, by the way. So you see people selected multiple answers there. We only had 29 responses, but there's obviously a lot more than that on that bar chart. And I'm a participant in an adult or youth league. Okay, I'm not gonna read all these, but some other comments, people had a chance, and you all are gonna have a chance to leave some comments tonight as well, even if you don't get a chance to speak at the microphone. I'll leave this up here for just a minute and I'll read a couple of them. So one comment, manage JER as a racket club. That's what it was designed for. The city should issue a municipal bond to fund day-to-day obligations. Multi-sport would be much more inclusive of the whole community. A smallish investment now would benefit everyone for years to come. The city would see much more use out of the facility than current. Let's see, the facility has caused negative outcry from locals since the start. By engaging youth and adult organizations, you are showing that JER is intended for all, not only paddle sport players. To me, it would be properly managed as an asset for its greatest return. My money says you would see dang near maxed out reservations. Kudos for looking at the future and making change. Okay, this is my second to last slide. In my opinion, after doing a lot of research on recreation facilities around the country, it is highly unlikely that this facility is ever going to fully fund its operations out of revenues, regardless of what model council chooses. That said, we are at 54% cost recovery ratio over the year. We're on par with municipal sports facilities nationwide and above average for similar facilities here in Sandpoint. The question council needs to answer is, how do we maximize the community benefit provided the tax subsidized nature of this facility? Recall, it's not general fund taxes. This is recreation dollars funding a recreation facility. Do we go all in for the primary user groups for which the facility was designed? Or do we adapt the facility to serve additional user groups? Either way, whether we go the multi-sport adaptation route or the primary user group route, a greater attention needs to be paid to providing a high quality user experience and a member experience that makes people willing and eager to make James E. Russell their home for indoor recreation and sports. Whether that means making efforts to grow the tennis and pickleball communities over time or open the facility to other sporting groups now, the performance of the facility as a community sports center is up to the decisions made by council in the weeks ahead. And now I'm gonna give everybody here a chance because we're not all gonna get to speak tonight. But I do want everybody with a smartphone to scan this QR code. There's literally 2 questions here that shouldn't take more than 2 minutes to answer, maybe 1. Scan this QR code. Tell us what community you're a part of, what your thoughts are on the proposals tonight, and there's a chance for you to leave a written comment as well. I'm gonna share all of these responses with city council tomorrow. So not everybody's gonna get to speak at the microphone tonight, but everybody's gonna get a chance to leave some comments. So I'll leave this here and I'm gonna hand it back to the mayor and. Yeah, we're gonna open it up to some public comment, I think. Thank you all.
Thank you, Jason. Really appreciate the hard work you put into that. I think it sets a very clear picture for us of where we're at. At this time, as I mentioned, after this meeting, council, hopefully this has been informative. You have some paperwork and some numbers to look at in terms of budget. After this meeting, we'll be meeting individually. Love to hear your thoughts, comments. And there's a lot to digest here tonight. We're not asking you for any kind of decision, just information, maybe hear a little bit from the public there. And I think it'd be helpful if we could just go around, hear from people's on the council, your perspectives, your thoughts, your questions that we still need to find more answers to. And general temperature on the opportunities in the 4 different models that Jason brought up. And I'll just start, this was an amazing gift. And, with a gift that's now becoming a cost, that's obviously a concern. Obviously, as Jason explained, some of the revenues required to fund this facility and keep it operational, even at that 50+% recovery rate, means a reallocation of some of our recreational funds, and takes away from our ability to provide amenities and offerings such as kid camps, maybe lifeguards, activities and other investments in our community. And I think of that and it's a bit, it's reality, but it's a bit frustrating. There's never enough money to do everything we want, but now we're being asked to consider redirecting money to a user group that, based on the numbers, 231 paying members, it seems like a high cost to provide a high quality amenity, and it is that, to a relatively small number of city residents. I'll use my experience. I was down here with my daughter. I played here once. We were here from 6 to 8 p.m. and we were the only people in the facility. And I thought, what a shame that there's no one here. We were all by ourselves and, for that cost, those are the things that are going through my head. So, I'm open to all those options up there. And I'd love to hear what, council members have to think and say. So pass it on to Joel and just pass it down.
Thanks everybody for being here. A lot to digest. I was a part of this process from the beginning and there's been a lot of difficult feelings and thoughts and not really knowing the future can be very difficult. I personally would ultimately like to hear from the public, to hear all your guys' thoughts. I mean, there's a lot of smart people here. I know a lot of you. So I look forward to hearing your comments. And I think that's going to help inform council on what the future looks like. Off the bat, half of me says option 2 is a great idea and that'll benefit a lot of people. The other half of me thinks that it hasn't even been a year yet. So I don't think that's, not every business or everything that we put together is successful in the first year. Sometimes it takes sweat and effort. there's no perfect answer, but ultimately I want to hear from the public before, as we move on, to hear comments, and it will be a difficult decision no matter what we come down to. So, thank you.
I too want to thank you all for coming. Yeah, big decisions. I want to hear from the public. It's a public facility. I support what the majority of the community would want. I'd have to spend some time on this. I can't make quick decisions. I like to think. And yeah, lots of options. So you're the users. I'd like to see what everybody who is a user feels, and city taxpayers, I don't think should be putting the bill for this all on their own, so we'll see.
Thanks, yeah, I'm just here to learn tonight as well from all of you, and I do have a couple questions. Starting with this option 3, third-party operator. That there was no sort of financials associated with that option, but it did say city continues to provide the front desk staff, pay utilities, other operation costs. So I'm just kind of curious, is that like a cost savings to us really?
I think the idea would be, we would earn a rental income from the operator that would cover some of the costs of us operating it. We would still share some of the losses, if that makes sense. So it wouldn't bring us, I don't believe the proposal would be to bring us from 54% to 100% cost recovery. Obviously, the rent, we would need to cover those 200, or what we would have lower costs, obviously, but it would improve our cost recovery ratio, while also improving the options for programming to the tennis and pickleball communities through that third party operator who brings that infrastructure of tested programs used around the country to Sandpoint. So we don't have the details on the financials on that yet. We've only had 2 meetings with them at this point, and there's not an actual cost proposal at this point.
That's good extra information, thanks. And then when we start talking about the multi-sport transition, it seems to me that a lot of the turf users would be sort of larger teams, and maybe the pickup games wouldn't be as big of a hit, let's say. So is that something that we envision as like one night a week, we put out the turf and it's there all night and it's reserved for a local team or maybe a tournament or something? Or is that something that, I mean, you said it could be put up in 2 hours, so maybe you'd have it there for half a day and take it down?
Honestly, as much as I'd love to say the turf would be, popped up daily and taken down daily, it's more likely it would stay up for a week, 2 weeks, maybe a month at a time, because of the labor it would take to apply it. So it's relatively temporary compared to a basketball court, which we're gonna set up and likely leave there until perhaps we host state championships or something, at which time the basketball court could be removed. But the basketball court is definitely more labor intensive. We're talking a day or two of labor. The turf field, a couple of hours for 4 volunteers. I've actually, like I said, I've participated in the disassembly of one of those fields and put it back together, and it's quite easy. The panels weigh 20 pounds each, and my daughter could carry one around. So just to give you an idea, but it wouldn't, like in all realistic likelihood, it wouldn't be a daily application. We take it down at 6 o'clock, put it back up at 8 o'clock. Just the time it would take is not practical.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then you did mention that the basketball court could potentially be taken down on a longer time frame. Do either of these additional surfaces damage the existing surface at all? Or if we found out that neither of these were any more popular than the existing surface, could we just hold them and then go right back to using it the way we were?
There's no chance of these surfaces damaging the existing surface. You can see there's about 1.5 inches of styrofoam padding underneath the turf, and there's no fill material inside the turf. So this is designed to be put on concrete or asphalt surfaces. And the basketball court is a vinyl product that sits on the court and it won't move. There's no movement of the court. So there's no expected damage to the court that will result from this.
I think that's all the questions I have on the first round. Thanks.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming. When you're further on down the line, a lot of your questions are already been answered. So, most importantly, as everyone else said, I'm here to listen to what the users desires, needs, wants, dreams are. I've asked, Director Welker to post, the, PowerPoint, so you guys have an opportunity to maybe reread it, process it some more, make some good comments to us with the QR code. For those people who couldn't quite get here on time because they have other family or responsibilities, you'll be able to read that in its entirety. So I look forward to your live comments tonight and then any other ones that, may come further out. And we all are going to literally have to play nice and just, none of these decisions are easy for any of us. So, but hopefully we can come to a middle road where everybody's happy, whether that's option 1, option 2, 3, or 4. I've made no decisions. I'm not swayed in any way for anything yet. So just want to make the best decision for the city taxpayers at Sandpoint.
Thank you, everybody, for coming out. I do have a number of questions. I just want to say thank you for Jason. Thank you to Jason and Sarah. She's in here somewhere. I spent a lot of office time here asking these guys questions. A couple of questions. I apologize because you guys don't have the P&Ls in front of you, but to really get me to understand this, this top line of total salary and wages, does that include the temporary wages?
I'll actually share my screen here.
Perfect.
This is the document that the council members have in front of them. The salary and wages does not include temporary wages there. That's for salaried employees in the top line, and you've got temporary wages on line 2. So these are our part-time staff. We're at about $4,500 a month for part-time staff. And through April, we were at about $7,000 to $8,000 a month for full-time staff. That includes benefits. You can see all the different benefits broken down: FICA, PERSI, medical, dental, workers' comp, life insurance, long-term disability, etc. These are the numbers that are going to go down. You see that we forecast them dropping to around $5,000 a month starting in June. That's because we are down from 130% FTE to 70% FTE after the restructuring in the recreation division. So our full-time salary and benefits will drop significantly starting next month.
So thank you for that. So I think what jumps out at me right away here is just with total salary and wages, we are anywhere from 61% cost to 97%. You add in the temporary wages and we are well over 100% for labor costs. So just in comparison, like a restaurant or retail, you want to average somewhere around 20% for your entire day. 30% in your max, and maybe like 35% when the season is not there. Inside that total salary and wages, we have 20% of Jason's salary is paid from here. 10% of the recreation staff director, was that formerly Katie?
Yes.
Okay, and are any of Maeve's wages paid out of here?
No. She's not involved in operations at all.
Okay, are any bonuses or any other wage overhead in these two numbers, the temporary wages or the total salary and wages?
No.
Okay, so moving down the line here, the internet, the fiber, the first month of January, we have $869, and then going over to April, there's almost $1,200, and then it jumps down and reduces to $395.
Yeah, keep in mind, we're in the first few months of operation here, and some of this is additional setup costs, hardware costs. We know our internet bill going forward is $395 a month. Those numbers bounced around a lot because we were figuring out our internet solution here. So some of these, you'll notice that our worst months were actually January and February from a cost performance standpoint. April was a bit of a dip, but that's because we saw the high school occupying court space for about 20 hours a week in April. And we didn't invoice them until May, which is why our May numbers are quite a bit better, because we saw the school districts. I see TJ in the back. You're gonna get that invoice in your inbox today, TJ. I got it, yeah. Assuming TJ pays his bill, we're gonna see pretty good numbers for the month of May. We're actually at 90% cost recovery for the month of May, thanks to 3 months of use by the school district being paid all at once. So, but 44 and 46% were our worst months otherwise, and that's because we had some upfront costs that are not continuing costs that were charged to the sports center. but some of those were around internet. We saw like $2,000 or $3,000 in internet bills that we won't see going forward.
While you're on internet, how does that 395 compare to what we're paying at like City Hall?
We did a lot of research on internet. I was blown away that it was gonna cost $395 to provide internet. Here I pay $80 at home or something. But internet providers do not charge large commercial facilities the same rates that they charge households, unfortunately. We looked at beaming internet here via a little dish from an antenna on top of City Hall. There were too many obstructions in the form of trees, and the last thing we want to do is cut down more trees for this place. So this was deemed to be the best solution. Ting is our internet provider, and we have the same rate that most businesses in Sandpoint pay.
What other Sandpoint recreational piece of property do we have where we've got wages and salaries being paid for the city staff that are coming out? Like how many Sandpoint salaries or wages are coming out of Memorial Field or Traverse Park, Great Northern?
I don't know the exact percentage of FTE like I do for this facility, but we charge the maintenance crews who maintain those facilities. Their wages are paid out of those facilities. So when you see that low cost recovery ratio at our other recreation facilities, it's because we're paying pretty much 6 full-time staff to maintain those facilities, and part of their wages come out of the revenues from those facilities.
Are there wages being paid out of the boat moorage specific to our Parks and Rec staff that clean and maintain those?
No, our 3,500% cost recovery ratio. Oh, Sarah, my finance director, is saying yes. Sarah Lynn's
Thank you.
finance director. Thank you, Sarah.
So everybody has a timesheet that actually breaks that out, so they track their time by the 20 or 25% an hour. So every time they work on any of those things, it's all tracked.
Specific to wherever they're working, it
Yes.
comes out of
Every
that.
part, yeah, so every part that they're in, they're tracking that time. If they're at the moorage and they're doing something at the docks, that they're tracking to that time.
And at the end of the day, if we're losing on all of these different all these different perks, right? They're all, I should say, they're being subsidized by the rec fund, right?
General
No,
fund.
they're by the general fund.
They're subsidized by the general fund. What is subsidized by the rec fund?
The rec fund pays for the rec, so like.
Or the rec programs?
So we'd have to go back and look at that. It's very specific on where their expenses are coming from and where the revenues are going.
So here's a question while I still have you. What are we losing, or were we profitable in our Parks and Rec programming? No. What do you think we were
You mean-
losing?
Programming or park and rec, 'cause that's two separate things.
Well, why don't you give us both? If you
So-
could.
No, we budget probably close to $750,000 to $1 million a year on just parks. We don't make near that. You saw the revenues that we're doing that that are up there. The revenues coming in, those were all of the park revenues is going into the park improvement fund.
Sure.
So the general fund doesn't even see any of that.
Gotcha.
So you've got two things. You've got the expenses going general fund and you got the revenues going into the park improvement fund. That was set up by ordinance back in like the 70s. So that was
What would the cost savings be for us if we're not offering any parks or any recreation programs from here on out till the end of the year?
so you mean from the rec
From all of our recreation. So anything that we lost, now that we're not offering it unless a third party is running it, like Sandpoint Sailing Association.
So now the rec center, the center and also the rec thing is all in the same fund, the rec fund. I can't give you the number off the top of my head, but without having two salaries in there right now, well, we will be having one other one that's doing us. But we are saving probably close to 80,000 just in that one salary.
But there's the trade-off, right?
Yeah.
If we're not offering the programming, we're not retaining
Yeah.
members one way or another. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
I think that's what I've got for, yeah, okay, marketing, real quick. Doesn't look like a ton of marketing has gone into anything. Have we marketed the community room, as a revenue center and renting the place out? I know you guys did a free movie night for the grand opening. Have we done another where we're charging nonprofits, any other user groups to come in?
No, we have completely failed in marketing this facility. Yeah, no, there hasn't been adequate marketing whatsoever. In the last 3 weeks, we've done a lot more Facebook posts, but that's by virtue of me being here every day. there, there just hasn't been much marketing or promotion. Opportunities for collaborations with Schweitzer, with all the hotels in town, with local businesses downtown, promoting the facility to guests and visitors who are not necessarily members, but will come in and pay the relatively fair non-member court use fees. Those are things we definitely haven't done, but we need to in the future. Ryan, I see ya. You're my man.
All right, last couple of things, because I do want to hear from the public, so I don't want to cut into your time, but I need to understand some of this before we start looking at some of these options. This last portion on the third party operator, we've got. At the end of the day, if we're paying the labor, we're paying the utilities, and we're paying the operational cost, just because we have a lease with the third party operator, still would mean that this facility needs to be subsidized. We'd still be operating at a loss like we do with the rest of our parks. Is that true?
Without having any actual proposal from USTA PNW, I can't really answer that. My best assumption is that it wouldn't be a silver bullet that eliminates our deficits. And I don't think it would be realistic for the city to expect that either.
We looked at food trucks or any sort of tournaments. That might also, you may have answered that in your marketing portion of having tournaments come here and having food trucks or vendors out in the parking lot that could potentially pay a fee to rent in those booths or those spaces. I think that's about it. There's a lot of information to digest. I just got the numbers today, and these are just my handwritten notes while we were going through the slides. So I'm very eager to hear from everybody and put all this information and get back to you guys. Thank you very much for coming tonight.
I'll keep my comments short and brief. So far, I really appreciate the presentation you put together, very informative. I hope it was informative for you. First time that I've seen the different options. Just a couple of comments. So before retiring to Sandpoint, I used to run facilities that cost billions of dollars. And the only way that you made those work is by utilizing the facilities. And so when I hear Mr. Grimm say at 6 to 8 PM, he and his daughter were the only people in this facility, that raises a huge concern. We have to figure out a way to utilize this facility. It costs too much not to. Second thing, all of you have seen the movie Field of Dreams, build it and they will come. We're still very early in it, in the build it and they will come cycle, right? I think we all recognize that. And so I think it is prudent that we're looking ahead and saying, how do we go look to the future and make sure that we make this a viable option for the community? But we're only 6 months into it. We've learned a lot. I think with new people coming on board to help us market the facility, we heard all of you clap when we said we need to do a lot more there. I think to make a big change. I would also ask Sarah 2 financial questions. One right now, as was highlighted, the mortgage fee and the RV park are our most profitable entities in the city. Right now, those go to park CIP projects. Why can't they be directed? Why can't those funds be directed to support the operations of JER?
Great question. That actually was done by ordinance.
We can change the ordinance.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can change it. That was done by ordinance back in the 70s. It's been updated twice since then. The actual RV park that came on a couple years ago, that is kind of we probably need to talk about that more, but that was directed at the time to go into that fund. But when you actually look at ordinance, it's not specific. That was new. So I actually talked to Jason about that today, that ordinance to me does need to be looked at, because typically in other cities, you don't see expenses here and revenues here. You see that all in one.
Yeah.
So.
And while you have the mic, and I'll talk loud enough that you can hear, the second question is the recreation fund revenues. set at 4.55%. Can that number be increased? And could those increased dollars be directed toward operating this facility?
So yes, they could be increased with the tax levy.
Yeah.
We would have to be, go out to voters and we could increase that. It has to be obviously approved by voters, but, yes, it can. But that was, I did some research back, I don't know, several months ago about when that came into effect. I think I got back, I think it was the thirties is when I found stuff. It was never, from what I can see, was never a voted thing. So, but it all of a sudden just showed up in financials back in like the thirties. So, maybe back then you didn't have to vote on it. I don't know. But now, yes, you would have to, and yes, you definitely could increase that.
Okay, thank you. And I'll turn it over to the public. Or to Mr. Mayor Grimm.
Thank you, council members. Thanks, public. Again, good questions. Jason, thanks so much to staff and yourself for put a ton of work in this. And I guess that's one thing I want to leave us with before we go to the public. You know, Jason's the planning community development director. When I created that position, my aspiration was that this position would be working on, you know, economic diversification, sort of the broad, very broad work of looking at how a community is growing. And the reality is this facility and all the work to get it completed and do what he did tonight is taking up a lot of time. And that's sort of where my heart is we're putting a ton of time into this facility. And again, I go back and I look at the users. Is that a marketing issue? Is it a simple, you know, illustration of what is the user base? I look at the average age in this audience tonight, and I'm gonna favorably say, you know, 58 or something. We're a town of 10,000 people with a lot of kids. There's a lot of lacrosse, there's a lot of baseball, there's a lot of football that could use a facility like this. And going back to 6 to 8 at night, you know, it being empty. You know, if you know anything about the pool over at the YMCA, the high school's waking up at 5 a.m. to get time in there. And my aspiration is to see this community used so well, this facility used so well. I'm not as concerned about the subsidies. I want to see it used. I want to see it appreciated and, you know, people just hear and fill in the space. So with that, it's about 6:40. Council, I was thinking we could go to 7:15. That gives us about 35 minutes of public comment. Any council members object to a strict cutoff at 7:15 so we can get some dinner? With that, are we just gonna pass this microphone?
Yeah.
Jason, you wanna moderate that and keep people at 3 minutes?
Yeah.
You might have to stand out with Jason.
If everybody wants to speak, has filled out a pink slip, please bring those up to Melissa at the front. Is that okay, Melissa? Yeah. And she'll pass them on to me. When I call your name, if you come up to the podium, I'll hand you the microphone. So everybody in the back can hear you. Yeah, I've tested.
I mean, maybe if you were to sit over there with the mic, we would have to be handing them back and forth.
Maybe Cheryl can.
Maybe we could run it under the table or something.
It'll reach fine. I tested it. Okay, why don't we start with Iris Harrison? City resident?
You're allowed to know, so we got. Awesome. There you go.
Hi, I'm Iris Harrison. I've been a city resident for 30-ish years, and part of that has been paying for parks and rec in town here. For all the whole rest of the community to use. Fundraise, food meetings, so on. So now we're getting some other things out of town. But I would like to just request you give it a chance. I've been a tennis player, played USTA tennis competitively. And haven't for a few years. I am a member here, but haven't used it yet. And programs are what get people involved. We had clinics for every team I was on, and it was so much fun just to have a coach. You know, that would just, you'd hit a ton of balls. then it makes you wanna play. And without that, I don't see how we can grow the programs and use facilities. So that's all I have to say, and I hope we stay the course for a little bit longer.
Darren Leish. Darren, you can grab it right there.
Okay. Folks, I appreciate,
You
Yeah.
gotta face us.
I appreciate the enthusiasm, but can we just not clap? You've all been to maybe some public meetings where, you know, we don't want to disrespect anyone who has a different opinion here. So if you can just keep your applause, if you support someone, you can go do the someone's comments, go online, do that. But please, if we can't just maintain the quorum, we're gonna shut this down. So thanks.
Hi, council. My name is Darren Lesh. I'm the owner and operator of the basketball school of Sandpoint. What we do is we develop skills in our youth, both boys and girls, and give them the confidence to go out and either make a team that they're aspiring to make, or much more importantly than that, just feel good about themselves as young people and know that they can accomplish anything if they put their mind to it. I really feel like I'm up here not representing basketball, but I'm up here representing the one group that is not invited for obvious reasons, and that is Sandpoint's most valuable asset, which is our youth, okay? You know, all of us in this room like playing sports, and we could find our way onto a court, whether that be a racket sport, a basketball court, we can make it happen. A lot of times, youth can't make it happen. They can't find a place to go play a game like basketball, volleyball, or football, or batting cages, and they need a facility like this to help them accomplish or be introduced to what they're trying to do. I am a renter right now. I run my basketball school at a couple of the local schools. My weekly sessions, twice per week sessions, are at Lake Ponderay Alternative School. Give me a show of hands who's been in the gym at the Lake Monterey Alternative School. Okay. For those that haven't, it's the worst gym in the county. Okay, it's about the size of this room. It has 2 goals up. It has some issues. My point of bringing that up is that people don't show up for facilities. As gorgeous of a facility as this is, people show up for how you make them feel, what you introduce to them, what type of programs you introduce, so on and so forth. Last summer would be an example, okay? We ran a basketball camp at Kootenai Elementary. We charged $130, gave them a t-shirt, and guaranteed that they would have fun and develop skills, okay? We had 120 families sign up, had a great camp. 2 weeks prior to us running the camp, the local high school head coaches, each of them, okay, ran camps. They charged about $45, also gave a t-shirt, and they had in the lower teens of people show up. It's not about price. It's not about the facility. It's about who's running the place, what type of programs, how are people feeling when they walk in and when they walk out of this building. If you just open the doors and let them do their thing and then leave, they may or may not come back. If you have the right people running the facilities, making them feel a certain way, building confidence, making them feel good about themselves, they'll never leave. They will not let you cancel their membership, okay? So the last thing I want to say, because I'm out of time, is I'm ready to rent this basketball court 3 nights a week for 4 hours a day immediately, okay? 3 nights a week, 4 hours a day, at a rate that gives me a chance to be successful, okay? But what that will do is bring many families of youth into this building who might eventually play tennis because they see what's going on throughout the rest of the building, okay? I'm out of time. Thank you all very much.
We have to go a little bit. Let's
No, just one more, are you a Sandpoint resident?
So I live in Salem.
Sable, okay. And yeah, if you can just notify us if you're a Sandpoint resident or not. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Carolyn Whalen?
Yeah, I live out Sunnyside.
Oh, you can, oh,
All right.
it's fine. No, you're welcome to speak. Just for the record, just say, you know.
This is not my jam. I talk to children, not.
Just pretend we're children.
I understand. So when my kids were going through school, I wrote a grant for
the net curtains that are at the fairgrounds. I don't know if they're still there. That was for soccer. The only thing I would say, if it's multi-use, what are we going to do to protect the beautiful walls and facility that we have? That's the only thing I'm saying that. Next. I thought, what about selling a season pass like Schweitzer does, September to May for racket sports? So, you know, that would be a one-time, once-a-year fee, no per time fees. Because what I've heard from some people my age is that it's costing $85 to $90 a month to play tennis or to play pickleball. If you play 2 to 3 times a week, 4 to 5 weeks a month, that's kind of unaffordable for some people. So just a thought, season pass, September to May, then host summer camps for kids. Parents are always looking for things to do with their kids in the summer, even though we have a beautiful lake and all of that. Leave one tennis court at least, several pickleball courts, and make a summer camp for kids. Specific grade level. Every grade level class in LPOSD learns tennis, and another grade level team learns pickleball. And I was, I wrote a few grants through PACE. I happen to know that they are happy to fund things like that if it benefits, this is a huge amount of children. It's not that hard to write a grant. I'd be happy to help anyone who's interested in that. And it would involve, I think you have to grow a sport from the ground up. I feel very strongly about that. So maybe littles learn pickleball and a little bit olders learn tennis. Silver sneakers application for the oldsters. You know, those of us on Medicare would benefit hugely from that. And then league and lessons made available to members. You know, everybody said that already. Visiting coaches, possibly through Selkirk or USTA.
Thank you so much.
Dan Taddick.
Yep. Hello, I'm Dan Taddick. I am a Sandpoint resident. Took your notes here. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. I am president of the local Sandpoint Sasquatch Baseball Organization. Former Little League board member, a coach and a parent. I've got kids very active, just keeping up with them as a full-time job. Baseball, basketball, soccer, very active. Youth sports is sorely lacking in space during the winter months. Groups are left to fight for largely inadequate space at the fairgrounds or Lake Ponder School District facilities. Darren spoke to that, I think, quite well as well. That space is sporadically and inconsistently available, we're finding. Specifically for our baseball group, we're paying $38.80 an hour at the fairgrounds for those subpar facilities at best, and we don't bat an eye at that. So I think that even with the $20 projections, you could probably put that up a little higher. Paying $30 an hour would be a reduction in our costs, and yeah, that would still be a godsend to our organization. I strongly support option 2, and I think council should as well, for the youth of this community. Just one general thought idea for perhaps reducing costs would be automating access, key cards and cameras. That could be something where you don't have staff present maybe as consistently or during all hours. Just another idea for perhaps reducing some of that cost on the front end. But yeah, I commend council and staff for bringing this to the public, and option 2 is a great idea, and I think many in this community will support that as well. Thank you.
Jeff Klein. Tell us whether you're a city resident, please.
Just outside of city limits, non-resident. I've been a member here since it began. I do youth programs and so forth to try to put the kids here. I have been actively involved in option 3, I believe it was, the Pacific Northwest USDA. I've been in a lot of meetings with their general manager who's talking about that sort of, what that sort of situation would look like. And my experience is it really could be a silver bullet option for you. So I highly encourage you to look into the details of that. He's proposed it to me as they can pretty much structure it however you want. They have a lot of creativity and they can set up a 2-year lease and try it out. And they, with most of their facilities, they've brought in youth programs that just have completely revolutionized these facilities in Vancouver and Longview and throughout the Northwest. And they can do a 2-year lease where everything goes away after that. And they can take over the overhead if you want, or you should at least hear them out. Have Ryan have a meeting with them and find out what options you really have. Because they could do that. They could take over all of your overhead, or they'll tell you what they could take over, manage the whole facility, bring in all sorts of youth programming. They're a nonprofit. They can run a loss, and their whole job is just to grow the sport of tennis. They have flexibility on the membership fees, so there's nothing set in stone there. But what that would allow is to stay true to what the Russell family wanted for this place, to really try out the programming. And after that 2 years, you have the ability to do whatever you want because you haven't already bought all these services. I think it's misleading to say how much extra revenue comes in from the other services. I think you lose a ton of racket revenue. So I think it's not for sure that that's a really big profitable move. And it's against this $7.5 million donor. So as the city looks for more donations, stay true to what they wanted, or at least try it. Talk to them about a 2 to 3 year lease, set your own terms. They'll be as creative as you want. Try it out. If it fails, bring in the turf. Sounds like it should be an RV park actually, or something like that, whatever you want to make.
Indoor
But
RV.
before you make, you got a place that's hemorrhaging money. Before you spend hundreds of thousands of dollars more for the sake of the Russell family, find out exactly what opportunities you have there. Let Ryan come up with some different proposals, talk about what you want from them. And see what they say, is my advice to you.
Eve Rossmiller.
Thank you. My name is Eve Ross Miller. I am a Bonner County resident, not a city of Sandpoint resident. I spent my entire career in marketing, communications, and advertising, and public relations. I did a number of surveys. I think for a user community of this size, 29 responses to a survey is completely inadequate. And the STA was not surveyed. The current members of JV were not surveyed. So I really believe that the survey was targeted toward coaches who want to see this become a multi-sport facility. The advertising, the budget figures is almost non-existent. So no one will know about it without advertising, marketing, PR, viral. And I think at 6 months in, it's premature to discuss multi-use. I mean, I'd like to see marketing and programming fully fleshed out before ideas are discussed to alter what it is right now. And I would like to see the new marketing guys, Brian, do. I'd like to see him employ best strategies for retention, programming, and marketing. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Amy.
Malcolmus? Oh,
I'm Amy Malcolmus, single resident. I enjoyed playing pickleball and tennis at the center. I believe there were some flawed policies when setting up the business plan for the Russell Center, which contributed to the situation we're in now. Those are no tax income put towards the Russell Center, even though it's a city-owned park and rec building, which is highly unusual for towns. Free play to all youth regardless of family income. Free play daily for Sandpoint city residents regardless of income. The failure to acquire a contract with health insurance companies to pay senior citizen JER dues, similar with the Y does. And the expectation that a business of this size would be profitable within 6 months. I enjoy seeing the youth playing at the center, having fun with their friends. I play tennis here on Tuesday nights, and there's always 3 or 4 courts of teenagers having so much fun playing with their friends. However, the only revenue sources left to cover the operating costs of the center are the adult players in surrounding towns, tourists, and private rentals. All these policies combined are not sustainable to cover the overhead costs. Also, there's a great desire from players and non-players for programming at the Russell Center you talked about. And then to grow the revenue stream, it's pertinent to have beginner lessons to continue to attract new members. Selkirk donated 40 pickleball paddles to the center, advertised for use of those to the public. I'm also an admin for the Playtime Scheduler app for pickleball courts in the Sandpoint area. Players use this app to schedule sessions and find others to play with. Currently, we have 734 registered pickleball players just in the Sandpoint area. 374 live in Sable. 131 live in Sandpoint, and 134 live in the surrounding areas, Dover, Priest River, Bonners Ferry, etc. A total of 639 pickleball players in this area, only 95 are tourists. Players are out there. The Russell Center needs to attract and draw them in with programming and affordable play fees. Lowering the drop in play costs was a good move and brought in a lot of fair weather players that only play outside. The city needs to be creative in programming over the summer to supplement revenue. Most sports centers offer youth camps during this time. Consider cutting back hours or days in the summertime. Most of the city's emphasis has been on a number of memberships, but not mentioned is the increase in drop and play revenue. I know a lot of people are not doing memberships right now, but they're still coming in and doing drop and play. Also, and then that's also tourist money. They do drop and play. They don't do memberships. Also not mentioned are the attendance numbers of free playing youth and Sandpoint residents. I believe with modifying business policies, marketing, advertising, and with income from added programming, the Russell Center could recoup a lot of its costs. Thank you.
Adam, Tajin?
Me? My name is Adam Tajin, and I am a Dover resident and just a longtime community member, coach and teacher here in the district. And I have been chasing indoor space for sports for a long, long time. And I know how valuable that space is for all sports. I've pretty much played soccer at probably just about every gym and coached it in the district, in every little nook and cranny, barn, facility, lean-to, shed roof you can find to make a 3v3 game happen, or some type of practice session. So there's a huge demand for that, and I guess that's the biggest thing that I want to speak to. And there's a demand from pickleball, there's a demand from tennis, there's a demand for soccer, baseball, everybody. We're all looking for that indoor space once November hits, and pretty much through the end of April, some springs depending on the weather. We have out at the fairgrounds a facility that we've been able to put together through the years, and we have to cap our sessions and turn kids away, because we just can't have that many kids in a space and still offer like quality programming and safe programming. And it actually spills over into places like the LPO high school gym. Like, well, let's do the little guys at that gym because we just don't have the space that we need. So it's a valuable commodity, that indoor space, especially in the winter. My biggest question, I think, is for this facility. And from the little bit of research that I've done, there seems to be some surfaces that can do it all. You know, they're not awesome for any one particular thing, but they're pretty good for everything. And I was just talking to an assistant coach of mine about a facility down in Moscow, and they do all kinds of stuff in there: pickleball, tennis, indoor soccer, futsal, football teams in there. And it's like one big surface that does it all. So you're not putting stuff down, tearing it up. If you want to have 4 tennis courts going, and maybe tennis can speak to that, you can have 4 tennis courts going. If you want to have 2 big soccer fields going for futsal, you could have 2 big soccer fields going. So I got to do a little bit more research myself, but I feel like that's out there. It may not be perfect for everybody, but I think it would be pretty good for everyone.
Gary? Deemer?
Yes, sir.
Sorry.
I'm a Sandpoint resident, probably the world's oldest pickleball player. But the thing is, like Joel said, this is very early in the process. After being in marketing for a number of years, to expect that quick a change is very difficult. And when you look at things, when you look at things, we have a very viable tennis program in this area. And what is the fastest growing sport in the world right now is pickleball. I mean, you should be expecting at least double the pickleball players within the next year or two. And within that time, you should also have courses and everything else so that kids get a chance to play, play forever, so they get involved. So I think you got to give it time and you got to do it right. And as I mentioned before, marketing is really a big problem. Communications has never been done well, and they need to get really better. Thanks.
Cheryl Klein?
I'm Cheryl Klein. I'm no longer a city resident, but I was for 3 decades. I'm retired. I started my career as the recreation director for the city of Sandpoint in 1980. I ended my career as the athletic director at the high school. So I do know firsthand, thoroughly, how much facilities are needed. I do not value one sport above another. But I would like to speak to giving this facility a chance for what it was designed, what exists now. I did take the time to put together a PowerPoint presentation that details what exists right now in the PNW USTA Northwest, the partnerships between that nonprofit group and public facilities. And there are 3 thriving facilities right now that are very similar to this. And so I did put that in the PowerPoint. I was directed to send that to the city clerk to be forwarded to all of you. So hopefully that will happen. I also did find out there are 2 other facilities, Camas High School and Shadle Park High School, that are slated to open in the summer of 2026. These are sheltered tennis courts with a cover. And so the USDA will run that program as well. So when you see that PowerPoint, you will see the extent of the programs that exist, the activities, the tournaments, the camps. When you have the professionals who can conduct that, you will go into that facility at 6 or 7 o'clock at night and it won't be empty because there will be programming the entire time. And this is the essence. We haven't had that at all. There has been no opportunity to grow a sport. I've been around long enough to remember when we started soccer. there was not a soccer community. Kids in the high school did not know how to play soccer, and that was developed. Also, lacrosse. No one knew anything about lacrosse. It took a while. You have coaches, you have programs, you grow, and you make that happen. So I'd like to speak for giving this a chance. The 3 months, 6 months of only opening the doors doesn't even tap the potential. Thank you.
And Ryan Wells,
Thank you so much.
so the last comment. Sure.
Thank you, council, for taking this opportunity. It looks like I'm the one on the hot seat for going forward. Lots of great information. I've been taking a lot of notes. I want to bring up 2 conversations I've had today. You've gotten your money's worth out of me already, and I don't start until Monday. Kaylee out at the city of Monterey, obviously you know the pond. They had that program up for the first time this year. Short season on that. One of the most expensive sports probably to run. I asked her to rate her experience and she says fantastic. We, exceeded all expectations. They started connecting with user groups, the community, sponsorships, all of that stuff very early on, and they were very, very successful at that. They ran in the black. Wow, we're talking about losses here on all these screens. They ran that program in the back. Last thing I'll leave you with, 13,000 people laced up and took the ice in that program. I mean, that's what I foresee this building should be doing. And I think we've got that opportunity. The other person I talked to, Craig Wolf, he is president of the Inland Northwest Pickleball Club. He's also the tournament director for the Coeur d'Alene Classic. A lot of us are registered for that tournament coming up in July. My wife and I paid $85 to register for that. They cut it off at 740 people just in registration for that. I'll do the quick math for you, 40 grand. Okay, we looked at a deficit of 101,000 one weekend in here with some marketing, with some of that. Tennis could be doing one of these, pickleball could be doing one of these. Many things that I really like to hear about this is the diverse revenue streams. That's what this building needs. I just have not seen this building run the way it should from day one. It just has not hit the ground running. We got a lot to get this thing built and then everybody kind of evaporated. Those 231 members, I hope you caught what Amy said. 734 people are registered just to play pickleball in this area. Why are only 231 and dropping rapidly? That's the things that I'm gonna address really quickly in here. I would say relaunching JER from an operations standpoint, from a community engagement standpoint, I think there's been almost none. Marketing and programming, you've obviously heard that. And then just a sensible membership program. Everybody I've talked to is just like, this doesn't even make sense. I have to pay for this, I have to pay for that, whatever. And I think to take that opportunity to just revisit that, you guys are obviously engaged 100% now, right? So let's look at that and let's move forward. But I think staying the course or a light mixed use is certainly a great opportunity for the next 6 months. To Joel's point, sweat and effort is going to get this thing done, and I'm ready to do that. So thank you.
You're hired.
See you Monday.
Thanks, Ryan.
Leah Platt.
Hi, I'm a Bonner County resident. I live a mile away. I drive past this building every day, this field every day for over 30 years. So, I mean, as a student and as an athlete in town, I coach, I volunteer, I give to Little League, I coach at the high school, we have a club softball. I play adult league volleyball, I've played softball here. My siblings, my parents have been on every board possible. And I agree with a lot of the coaches that have stood up here that we're not using this building for the youth that are in our area. And as I agree with the others that marketing has been bad on that end, you cannot tell me from Moscow to Bonners that people don't know this building's here. Because the sporting teams are coming, other people coming, everyone on Facebook, everyone in the paper.
this building is known that it's here. So while I agree that money, revenue or marketing, people know the building's here, let's be real. I drive by every day. I come to my little league out here to help and to watch nieces. And what other people have attested to, 100 people outside, 4 inside. And same thing, you have a line at the restroom outside for the 20 people standing there. 2 people inside, along with the worker. Another way too is, why not get volunteers? If people are so important of the building, why not say, hey, you maybe get your membership free, you volunteer 2 days? Or, and while I agree the racket sports need a place too, I've worked with tennis coaches for space in the gym as well. We're not utilizing it at night as much as I think it could be. Those sports teams that are in the fairgrounds and in the gyms, they're in there till 10 o'clock at night. So while I know that might be tough on employees, maybe those days someone stays later or comes later, or like someone else said, the keys or something like that. Most of us coaches have keys to gyms, have keys to fairgrounds. You know, we sign contracts with those people. So that's something that could be, but I think looking to volunteers to also help that cause isn't a bad idea. Have it be for usage or for something like that. So, but I definitely think the youth is not getting enough of a play here. Thank you.
Stefan Nybank. This is our last comment, so last chance if you want to comment.
Well, good evening, Council. I'm Stefan Nybank. As you know, I spent about 3,200 hours on this project, giving Maeve a lot of construction advice. The way I found the correct way, the best process to do this was Lynn and I traveled all over the West Coast, saw about 60 facilities, talked to the owners, found out what worked and what didn't. And some of our observations were, number one, we're missing marketing. Marketing has got to be the big key, professional marketing. This is not just marketing to the old folks. We're also going to the schools, working on programs for the schools, getting out in the public. That I think is our key. As a lot of you have your own personal businesses, you know, if you only sold alcohol, if you only sold sandwiches, then you wouldn't make it. You have to have other income streams coming in. So let's look at all the opportunities that have numerous income streams coming in. I really think that would be the best benefit. One thing that was discussed tonight was the turf, having a turf material. And as I've spoken with Jason about the hygiene issue of having the turf and have an airborne pathogen level in a building that's so airtight here, that how are you going to keep that clean? You take these materials out, this turf material out, you have to clean it, then you have to store it, you have to dry it, and you have to store it somewhere. I don't think that's practical, because personally, I don't think it would meet ADA requirements if we increase the pathogen, airborne pathogens in here, especially with walkers, older folks walking around in here. The other item was sponsorships. Most of the facilities we went to, we saw large hanging posters that advertised tennis, that advertised different activities that had to do with the sports activities. That seemed to be the big kicker, and that could be another income stream coming in. Anyway, I want to thank you very much for being so interested in making this happen. Let's do it correctly. Personally, I think we need more time, and there are a lot of little issues. And I know Ryan has got a good handle on it, and I think he can really help us move forward on this.
Thank you, folks. It's about 7:15. We're gonna wrap up. I just want to say thank you to everyone who came out and shared their thoughts. Please participate in the survey. We're gonna get this right. Thanks for your patience. It does take time to figure out the path forward. So the spray park's open if you're hot. Go jump in. And with that, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. Moved by Howard, second by Dick. The meeting is workshop is concluded.